Hello, this is Gary Marr from Illinois Community College. This screen capture is for my CIS 166 AA class. In this screen capture, I wanted to talk about an assignment which would be similar to assignment 4, which is due in a couple weeks. So what I have here is an HTML file and also a JavaScript file. Both of these files are on the S drive inside week 5, but I thought I would just review what I did with them so that everybody's on the same page in terms of getting some help with the next assignment. All right, so for starters, if you look through this particular assignment, you're going to find it's got a lot of input tags. Each one of the input tags has a ID which corresponds to it that's used by JavaScript. So a bunch of ID tags here, some for input and then a couple for output. A new one that I added was country input. This has been added to accommodate some additional logic, which is similar to assignment 4. At the bottom here, I've got a series of click events, all tied to buttons. And this is important. This is one way that you can launch JavaScript functions, which are blocks of JavaScript code, from buttons that are created in HTML. So down here I've got one for display label and print label, which correspond to functions over here. Here's my display label. Here is my print label. Let's look at display label first here. What display label does is through a series of document method calls by getElementID.value, it's pulling the information from name input. It's putting it in line 1, address input, line 2, etc. The new value is country input. I added some additional code here, simply a compound if statement that checks to make sure that the value in the line 6, if it's not USA, a message comes up on the screen saying you're going overseas or countries unknown. Is this correct? Okay, that's one of the things I've added. This last statement here is a different kind of direction. Most of these are taking and building input. This is building an output variable, which will be displayed later on in the program. But essentially, I take that back. It's displayed earlier in the program. Output is the value that is going to display the label at the bottom of the page. And this is going to take all of that input I've basically put in my label form and display to that bottom box on the screen. The only thing is it doesn't look like it has, I've got one more to add here. Let me put it here now. It does not have country code. I want to make sure that's in there. That's new, but that was a late addition. So now that should be in there as line 6. And let's see, I guess the rest of it's okay. Down here we've got some, this is the code for print label. This is a little bit different. It's still going to give you all of the information that you put it as input, but it's going to ask you for a number of copies to print. Now, what I did to simulate some of the stuff that's going on inside the test application is that I added a new function called label cost. What that does, it takes the number of copies, which is basically coming from this input up here, right here, and it's going to call a function called label cost. It's going to pass it that number of labels. It's going to make sure the value is numeric. It's going to calculate that new cost and return it back to the call point. Now the call point, let me fix this as a typo. The call point is going to be down here. So what should happen at the very end of this display is it should print the cost of all these labels to be printed. The other thing that's part of this if statement up here is that if it's not a number, it's a letter, whatever, it's going to say try again. It's also going to return a 0, so there's no cost calculated at this point. To run this program, I've got it running over here. Let me see if I can find it. It's right here. Let me do a refresh. So I need to put in a name. Fill out this information. Whoops, that's not Mar. That's going to be the address. And then some sort of city. So let me put in Glendale. And then Arizona's fine. Zip code 85302. And then for USA, I'm going to put USA. I'm going to first display the information. There it all is. There's my new country code. I don't see yet. Maybe that didn't work. Oh, no, I didn't refresh it. Didn't save it. But the one I really wanted to share was the print one. The print's going to ask me how many labels to print. I'm not going to say 5. I'm going to say, let's say maybe 8 labels. The 8 labels will now appear on the screen. You can see where the country code's been added. But more importantly, at the bottom, it's taking that 8 times the 5 cents a label and telling me this is going to cost me 40 cents. So what this does is it incorporates a lot of the different code blocks necessary to complete assignment 3. It's out there in the S drive. I'll look it over, and we'll talk about this in greater detail in class on Wednesday. Thank you.